Hello everybody and welcome back. We are here for Tuesday's Bind It All series. This is the kind of collaboration series that I'm doing with Sophie from Sophie's Crafty Corner. We decided that we want to put together a series of videos that will come out every other Tuesday where we're just sharing different binding techniques. Now Sophie and I have been making journals for a little while, but everybody tends to kind of go for the same kind of binding methods. It's either the 3-hole pamphlet stitch or an elastic binding where you can slide the pages out. So we wanted to just have a play around and an explore of different binding methods. Now the binding method that we're going to do today was actually a request after the last binding system, which was the tab binding system. Somebody commented and asked if we could show how to do this one, so that's what we're doing today. So I have made one to kind of show you, and then I'll do another one in a moment. So I've just created a simple closure for it. You don't necessarily have to have a closure on it, or you could just wrap a piece of sari silk around if you like, but I'll show you how it looks. So this is how the spine looks. So you can see the pages, it is a bit of an open spine, and then we've got that paper on the back. So this is just a scrapbook paper that I've had in my stash for ages. I'm trying to use up bits and pieces in my stash, so I thought this might be a good little project to be able to do that. So as you can see, it is an open spine, and then we've obviously got a binding system here in the middle. Now ignore my measurements, I have put little pencil marks on there because I'm going to use this to kind of help us build the next one. I did round the these edges. I didn't do it on all of them, I just did it on this side, but as you can see it still lays nice and flat when you open it up, which is quite nice. But you are getting a little kind of sneak of that binding there in the middle, and then this is how the pages are held in. Now the nice thing about this is that obviously it is flexible, it does allow the pages to lie flat. This bit is removable, so you could potentially use this a bit like a journaling card, so you could take it out, decorate, write a message on, do whatever, and then just pop it back in. It's almost like a belly band really, this piece, but it does hold these pages in. Now I've kept this quite simple. I've only done 4 pages per signature. I haven't made it too bulky, just because I didn't want to put too much strain onto the papers. And this one I have got, is it 5 or 6 signatures? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 6 signatures in here, but yeah, it's all the same. So in the middle of each of them you're going to get that, but as I said, it's nice that it does still lay flat wherever you kind of open it, which is obviously nice for when you are writing and things. Also the benefit of this is you can take this out, you can take out the signature if you like, if you want to, I don't know, do some art journaling, or you want to kind of flatter surface, because obviously where you've got these, if I was writing on the next page, you're obviously going to have the lip of that binding system underneath. So if you want to take this out for a completely flat surface, you can do that as well. So that's quite nice about this particular journal. And then obviously you've got the back cover there as well. So let me show you how I created this one. It is, I would say, quite an easy one. It's quite a nice one, a little bit of measuring, but yeah, once you kind of get into the flow of it, they're quite easy to put together. Okay, so to save some time, I have already been chopping bits and pieces up just so that we are ready. So this time I'm going to be using this scrapbook paper. It has got swans on the back, but I actually quite like this floral one. So they're going to be my covers. Now I've got 4 of them, only because I stick them back to back like that. So I have 4 of them. If you've got a sturdy enough cover, then you don't necessarily have to put them back to back. This is, I think, 230 GSM, so I mean it is a nice weight cardstock, but I still just like to double it up, just because I do like my covers to be nice and firm. It also hides where you bind the hinge to the cover as well, but you know, obviously it will be on the inside, so it would be here, so you wouldn't really notice it too much anyway. But I have 4 of them. Now to give you an idea of size, What I've done for my signatures is, this was an A4 piece. I've literally just chopped it down the middle. I did have to do a slight trim just to kind of get it exactly the same. But let's get my ruler so I can tell you sizes. So this is 5 3/4 of an inch high, or it's just over 14.5 centimeters if you use centimeters. And then as I said, it's just the height of an A4 piece of paper. So that's my one signature. Again, I've got 4 pages and I've got 6 signatures. So I'm just going to fold those over, and then it's going to make a nice little size like that. So once it's folded, we've got something that, as I said, is 5 3/4, and then it's just over 4 inches, or 10.5 centimeters. So that's kind of the size that I'm working with. You can do this whatever size. You can just fold an A4 piece in half, or whatever the US size, and do it that way. It really doesn't matter. You can play around with your sizes. So I'm just going to very quickly fold over my signatures. But yeah, as I said, this one was a request. If you do see a binding method that you would like to see us try, then do let us know. Do pop it down in the comments. Also go and check out Sophie's video. She'll be showing the same method, but she might have a different way to kind of do certain things. It's always nice to learn new sort of tips and tricks on how to do certain things, even if this is a binding method you've done before. Maybe I or Sophie will do one step that's maybe a little bit different. But yeah, this was a request, and I hope that from the way that the lady had described the binding system, that this is the one that she was thinking of. But yeah, I have tried this once before, like when the lady had requested it. It's something I had tried once before. It's not one I've done often, I must admit, but it is one that I have tried, and yeah, it's a nice one. Right, so that's my signature. So I've got my 6 signatures, and I'm just going to put those to the side at the minute, and I'll put that to the side with my covers. Now my covers, let me just check, I think are just ever so slightly. So where you've got the inches, that teeny little line over, I've just, I think, gone up 1 each way, just so it's slightly bigger than my signature pages. What I also have is, again, I had an A4 piece of paper, and I've cut it sort of lengthways. So I haven't trimmed anything off of the length, but I did cut them. They are 2 3/4 or 7 centimeters. So 2 3/4 inches or 7 centimeters. That's how wide they are. And as I said, I haven't trimmed anything else off. And then I've got some smaller pieces. These are going to be like the tag style bits that go in the belly band pocket. These are 5 1/4. Now you can make them the height of your entire signature if you like. I like to come in just a little bit. So obviously my signatures were 5 3/4, so I've come in 1/2 inch because it's 5 1/4. Or if you're working in centimeters, that is about 13.5 centimeters. And then the width, I've gone for just over 1 1/4 inches or 3.5 centimeters. So that's the size of those. I've also punched a 1 inch circle. That's going to be obviously for my closure. You'll also need a split pin. I've got my dark blue string to tie it all together. And then other things that you will need is a ruler, a craft knife, corner rounder if you're going to round your corners. You're going to need a scoreboard, some scissors or a craft knife, and then obviously if you're doing the same binding you might need some kind of hole punch to punch the hole. Right, let's get on then. So we have our signatures. Now if I bring my prototype back, just quickly unwind that because I did put some measurements in here. So again, like I said, you can play around with whatever size signature you like. but I try to come in about 1.5 inches from the top, because I think the closer you make it to the top, obviously the bigger the hole you're going to have, the more likely it's going to tear. So I came in 1.5 inches from the top, 1.5 inches from the bottom, and that left me with 2 3/4 in the middle. So that's the size of the hole that you want to be able to create. So what I did was, let's move those bits out of the way a minute. So just taking one to begin with, using my ruler, I just kind of go up to the edge, make sure that it's all lined up, come down 1.5 inches, and then I just make a little mark, and then I do the same at the bottom. So come up and then mark where it's 1.5 inches. So I've got these little marks, and then I'll just make sure that it's on the spine. And then just a quick way to measure all of them, bring them all together, and then you're just going to draw a line all the way across. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now you can obviously grip these together if you wish to, but that's just an easy way to kind of get them all in line. Right, then we've got to start cutting out the slit. Now you can either take a pair of scissors and then you just kind of cut in and then along that middle part, or you can use a craft knife. I think I'm going to use a craft knife. So just grabbing, I know it's a very messy looking board, but it's just a little mini board that I've been using, and my craft knife. And then all I'm going to do is open up my signature. Again, you can paper clip it together if you wish to, and then I'm just going to line it up on my mat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I mean, you're talking a slither, but you do need obviously a slight gap. So I'm coming just this one side of the fold, and I'm going to cut down. Okay, and then I'm just going to do the same on the other side, just so I get a little bit of a gap in those pages. It obviously does not want to be a massive gaping hole. It just needs to be a slither, because you need to be able to obviously get the card through. Right, I'm just going to line this back up on my mat. It's about there. And obviously I can still see where my pencil marks are. Right, so about there. I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to cut down to that middle part. And then you'll be able to see, like I said, teeny little strands, but it just cuts a slightly wider hole. And I'm just going to do that for each of my signatures. Okay, so I have cut the slits in all of my signatures. The next thing I'm going to do is just some corner rounding. So as I said, I'm only doing these top corners and bottom corners. You don't have to do any corner rounding if you don't want to, but I quite like the way it looks. I will be doing the same on my covers as well. You could also do a decorative edge, so if you've got like a decal edge trimmer, you could use those, make it look quite kind of worn and grungy. You can have torn edges. Yeah, whatever way you want to kind of decorate these. Now, I would say obviously similar to the tab binding, I wouldn't necessarily do this for a big journal that's going to have lots of tags and ephemera and things in, only because I don't think the hinge system would be stable enough to be able to hold lots and lots of ephemera. Oh, I'm doing the wrong one. So So yeah, I wouldn't make them overly full with ephemera using this particular method, but these are great if you just want to do some, maybe some art journaling or some written journaling, something like that. I mean, of course you can have some tags and bits and pieces in there, but like I said, just don't make it too heavy. Right, get rid of some of that rubbish. I'll clear that away later. Right, I'm going to do the same with my front and back covers while I'm here as well. Right, which one do I want for my front cover? That one's quite nice and it's quite dark, so I might have that one on the inside, and then I might have that one on the back. So again, I'm just going to put them back to back around my corners. That's the back cover. And that's my front cover. Awesome. So just so I remember which order, I'm going to put that at the front, put that at the back, and then that's kind of how it's looking at the moment. Right, down to the spine and the binding system. So this is where you're going to need a scoreboard. So I'm just going to get rid of these for a minute. Going to bring in my big scoreboard. Hopefully you can see that okay. Let's just move some bits over. Right, and then obviously I've got my 2 strips. So what I did is I basically came in every 1.5 inch. So nice and simple. 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9, 10.5, and then you're not going to have enough here, but that's fine. You're just going to leave it as is. You can do the same on the second piece. So 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9, 10.5, and then again you're going to have a little piece. So that's the scoring that you need to do. So I'm just going to pop this away again. Right, and then what you're going to do is, this is going to be the piece, so this is where we've got the teeny tiny piece on this end. From this end, this is going to be the bit that sticks to your cover. So this bit here, so the second score line up, is the one that you're going to make a mounting fold. So this is going to be the one that sticks up. Okay, so we've ignored the first one, and you're just going to pinch between the second score line, and that's going to be a mounting. Your next one is also going to be a mounting, so you just pull it up. Your next one's going to be a mounting, so you pull it up. And that's what you're left with. Now you do have to kind of encourage the folds so that they all kind of line up. There we go. Okay, so you've got a small piece on the back and that on the front. You're going to do exactly the same. Or actually, no, you're not going to do exactly the same with this one, because this is going to get stuck. Is it on the top? Yeah, so this one's going to get stuck on the top of there. So I just had to think for a minute where that needed to go. So your next one, and this is a bigger piece, but it's going to get stuck over your smaller piece. Okay, and you're going to go as close to the score line as possible, but don't go on the score line, otherwise you won't be able to fold it. So I'm just going to apply my glue onto here. I think I'm going to have to change my nozzle. This precision tip is so precision that this glue barely comes out of here. So I think I might have to change my nozzle. But that's enough glue for this piece. And then you're just going to line them up. As I said, I'm going up to the score line, but I'm making sure that obviously this folds, which it does. So give that a good press down. Okay, and then we're just going to keep on going. So obviously we've got, this is going to get stuck to the cover. We've got mounting, mounting, mounting. So that's 3 of our signatures. We're then going to have signature 4. Again, making sure that you give it a bit of a pinch. Signature 5. signature 6. Then this piece is going to be what sticks to the cover. This piece we can chop off. So just going to snip off that last short piece because we don't need that. And again, I'm just going to give that a good push down to make sure that that's all nice and springy. And this is kind of what we end up with. Okay. So now we can get on with some of the binding. So I am going to start from the front. So I'm just going to move my cover out of the way. I'm going to do this bit by bit. So I'm going to lay it down. So obviously this is where my front cover is going to be. So this is where my first signature is going. So I'm just going to pick up my first signature. Obviously where we've got that slot, we're going to put it in here. Now this is a bit of a trial and error, obviously depending on how accurate you were with your cutting. You may need to cut slightly further in, but all you do is you just slot it over the mounting like that, fold it over. Now when I've seen other people do this, they immediately put in the tab. I didn't do that last time. It kind of seemed to hold in place enough for me to kind of get through the making of the book. Entirely up to you if you want to do that. So just going to grab my next one and just going to keep going, popping them onto those valleys, then just keep folding it over. Get my next one, pop it on, and this is why it's nice to have a slightly wider gap, just because it is easy to just kind of slot it on. Otherwise you do risk kind of tearing, which is why I do cut that slither rather than just a single line. Make sure I'm going on the right mounting. And as you can see, like when you kind of get into it, it is very easy really to put together. So the next one goes on top. I must admit, I'm impressing myself so far, because last time I did have to do a little bit of trimming and cut a little bit of extra hole. You watch, this last one is going to be like that, isn't it? Now that I've said that, I've done really well. Oh no, there we go. Awesome. Right, so just going to make sure they're all kind of aligned, and then that's kind of how it's looking. Okay, so we've got those, we've got everything kind of in now. And again, doesn't really matter. I mean, like I said, it does kind of hold itself. It's not all kind of falling out like this, the spine. So it doesn't matter which way round you do this, whether you do the cover first or you do these pieces first. I think I might put these in just to make sure that everything's kind of held in. Now again, I am going to round the corners on these just because I prefer the look rather than the sharp corners. But you certainly do not have to do this step. So that's that one, and I'll try and do 2 at a time just because it makes it slightly quicker. And the next 2. Right, okay, let's just sweep away the rubbish for a minute. Fabulous. Right, okay, so I'm just going to open it up then to wherever, oops, we've got one of these, and then slot these in. That's it, and then that just holds it nice and snugly into place. So just go and look for the next one. And as I said, you can decorate these if you wish to. You can even use decorative scrapbook paper if you've got it. The paper I've got is quite thick. I actually forgot to say what this is. So this is a very thin card. So I wanted something sturdier than paper, but it is a thin card. I didn't want anything too thick because obviously when you start folding it like this, it's going to put more strain on the slit that you've made because it's more thick and bulky. So you don't want anything too thick, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. There might be people that have done this and always use thick card, that's fine. But I think when I did this the first time, that was probably one of the mistakes I made. I think the card I used was too thick, which is why I'm using something thinner for these ones. Right, so this is the last one. Slot that in there, and then that just helps kind of hold everything together as we kind of do the cover. So there's the signatures then, all bound and sorted. And I think they look pretty good. Right, so now we can get on with sticking stuff down. So let's start at the back of the book, shall we? Because the closure's on the front as well. So all I did is, this is going to be the inside cover. So I just glued that to that first. So I just made sure that it was where I wanted it. Because like I said, I made the cover just a touch bigger than the rest of the book. So I just kind of lined that up where I wanted it. And then I'm going to add my glue on there. And I'm just holding that in place, folding that over. Give it a little bit of a squidge. Make sure that glue grabs. This is belly art glue, so it does grab very quickly. And then I'm just going to add glue to this side. Yeah, this nozzle works so much better. Now the precision tip's lovely, but I always find that it clogs more. It doesn't seem to come out quite as freely. I mean, I know obviously it is a very, very fine tip, but still. Right, and then I just place this over the top, and then that just hides that binding then, doesn't it? Oops, just make sure that they are actually lined up. That's it. Okay, and that's the back. Then on the front, I'm going to repeat the same process. However, I also need this on, and I am going to have it that way, just so it's a bit of a contrast. So I'm just going to bring my scoreboard in very quickly, just because it helps me find the middle of my circle. So I'm just going to put it, because it's a 1-inch circle, so I'm just going to put it between two numbers. Actually, have I got a lighter side? Yeah, I'm going to do it on the lighter side, just so everybody can see what they're doing. And I just kind of come down the halfway mark, and I know that along here, roughly, is where I'm going to want to do it. I then turn it to its side, and I do the same thing. So I come down here. Right, so I know that's where I'm going to punch my hole. So I'm going to use my crocodile. I use the smaller hole. And I just kind of aim for where that kind of crosses over. Now somehow I've still managed to be off a little bit, but that's okay. Right, then using this, kind of pop this on here to just kind of gauge roughly where I want it, about there. And I put that on there. Okay, and then all I did last time was just push my pencil through, because my crocodile doesn't reach in that far. I have got a crocodile big bite, but this just seemed much quicker. Right, so now that I've done that, I'm going to put my split pin in. And just pop it on there like that. You don't obviously want it too tight, because you need to be able to wrap your string through. So just as easy as that. And now we're going to repeat the same process that we did for the back cover. So I'm just going to pop this underneath. I'm going to line everything up. And then I'm going to glue this side. Oops. Okay, so that's on there, and then you just glue this over the top. Again, just line that up. Like so. Right, okay, and there you have your book. So we've got the cover, got all the pages, and again, it all kind of lays flat wherever you are, even if it's kind of midway through. So yeah, awesome. And then to do the closure, I'm just going to use, as I said, this dark blue. So you want it, so we obviously want to tie a bit, and it needs to wrap around. So about there. Okay. Awesome. I'm just going to trim off that bit first. And then, I mean, it's up to you. You can go around that way if you wish to. I think I might with this one, just so it's a bit different. Or obviously you can wrap around the other way as I did with this one. But as you can see, I think a nice fun little binding. It's a great way to make just a little book. And yeah, I think a nice binding, a nice easy little project if you just want to try something different. I really hope that you have enjoyed this video and you're getting something out of this series. As I said, Sophie and I just wanted to kind of go through really, try out sometimes. I mean, some of them I have done. There are some binding systems that we have planned that I haven't tried before at all. So that'll be fun to kind of give those a go. But yeah, we are hoping that you are enjoying the series and giving these a go yourself. Like I said, we just thought it might be nice to try something different. Lots of people tend to go for the same sort of two, the pamphlet stitch, or the kind of Midori method where you've got the elastics and you kind of slide the pages out. So just trying something new. I think this is a nice little binding system. It does hold the pages really well, and just a nice little note booklet. Hopefully those instructions were nice and clear. Again, I hope that you've enjoyed the video. If you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. Drop me a comment, as I said, if there's any binding system that you would like to see us try, let me know. This one was a request, so I hope, I can't remember the person's name now, but I do hope that this was the binding system that they were after, and I hope that I've done a good enough job to explain it. If you are not already a subscriber, of course, I would absolutely love for you to do so. Make sure that you're also clicking that bell button. That way you are notified of any new crafty videos. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next crafty video. Bye for now.